All right, get ready, because today we're diving into a question that's probably on a lot of minds out there. Medicare Advantage versus Medigap.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah. And trying to decide between these two can sometimes feel like you're wandering through a maze in the dark.
Yeah, definitely.
But no worries, by the end of this deep dive, we're going to make sure you can navigate those Medicare decisions like a pro.
Exactly. You'll be a Medicare master. You know, it's funny, you spend your whole life contributing to Medicare, but when you actually get to use it, it's like you need to learn a whole new language.
I know, right? You got Part A, Part B, and then you throw in deductibles and co-insurance, and it's like, what is even going on?
It's a lot.
So let's break it down. Start with the basics.
Okay.
What is Medicare, and what are these gaps in coverage we always hear about?
So, Medicare is basically the government's health insurance program for people who are 65 and older, and then also some younger folks who have disabilities. It's like a safety net, making sure you can get health care as you get older. But, and here's where it gets tricky, original Medicare, which includes Part A, that's for hospital coverage, and Part B, that's for medical coverage, it doesn't actually cover everything.
Wait, so I thought Medicare was supposed to cover all our health expenses when we reach 65. What doesn't it cover?
That's where those gaps come in, and those gaps can get expensive. Original Medicare won't cover things like prescription drugs, going to the dentist, getting your vision checked, or hearing aids. And here's a big one. There's no out-of-pocket maximum.
Hold on. No out-of-pocket maximum. So, like, what if someone, let's say they have a serious health problem that needs a lot of care. Does that mean the bills can just keep adding up with no limit?
Yes, unfortunately, that's the case. That's why you see a lot of people looking into Medicare Advantage, also called Part C or Medigap, to help fill in those gaps and protect themselves from those potentially big costs.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense. So that brings us to the heart of what we're looking at today, Medicare Advantage versus Medigap. Why don't we tackle Medicare Advantage first? It's kind of like the all-in-one package. At least that's how I think of it. What makes it so different from the original Medicare?
The biggest difference is that these Medicare Advantage plans are provided by private insurance companies, not directly by the government. It's basically like choosing a bundled package deal for all your healthcare needs, which some people find pretty appealing.
Okay, I get the convenience of having it all in one,
Yeah.
but I'm always a little hesitant when it comes to private insurance companies. You know, all that fine print and potential loopholes.
I totally understand that concern, but it's important to remember that even though they're private companies, Medicare Advantage plans still need to follow Medicare's rules, so there's some basic standards that they have to meet. Think of it this way. The government's basically outsourcing the way they manage Medicare benefits to these private insurance companies.
Okay, that helps clear things up a bit. So, what are the good things about going with a Medicare Advantage plan? Do you get lower premiums or any extra benefits? Give me the highlights.
Well, a lot of Medicare Advantage plans offer really low monthly premiums. Some even have a $0 premium. And on top of that, they often include extras that original Medicare doesn't cover, like dental, vision, hearing, and even things like gym memberships. So it really can be like a one-stop shop for all your healthcare needs, which can be really appealing for a lot of people.
That does sound pretty tempting, but I'm sure there's a catch.
Ugh.
What are the downsides to this bundled package deal?
The trade-off with those low premiums and extra perks is that you often have co-payments, co-insurance, and network restrictions. Imagine you need to see a specialist with the original Medicare. It's usually covered after you meet your deductible. But with Advantage, you might have to pay a copay or get a referral from your primary care doctor. It's not an all-you-can-eat buffet, more like they give you a specific menu with costs tied to different items.
Ah, that's how they manage to keep those premiums down. So you might be paying for the convenience and extras through more out-of-pocket costs down the line. Sounds like a balancing act for sure.
Yeah, it is. That's why it's really important to understand what your healthcare needs are and what your budget looks like before making a decision. Think about things like, will you need to see specialists a lot? Are you okay with having to stay within a network of providers? Those are all key questions to ask yourself.
All this talk about networks makes me think about flexibility. Isn't being able to see any doctor a big selling point for Medigap?
You're exactly right. Medigap, or Medicare supplement insurance, is all about having that freedom and peace of mind. I kind of see it like a VIP pass for your healthcare. It steps in to cover those gaps in original Medicare, things like copays, coinsurance, and deductibles. So instead of worrying about surprise medical bills, you have this extra layer of protection that covers those costs for you.
Okay, now that sounds amazing. No network restrictions, predictable costs. It's like a safety net for your health. Sign me up.
hold on, there's a small catch, and that's the premiums. Medigap plans, especially the ones that offer more coverage, they usually come with higher monthly premiums than you'd see with Medicare Advantage. So you're essentially paying for that peace of mind and predictability up front.
But wouldn't that extra cost be worth it? Especially if you have a chronic illness or think you might need a lot of care. Wouldn't those higher premiums be offset by the out-of-pocket protection Medigap provides in the long run?
You raise a very valid point. For many people, particularly those with more significant healthcare needs, the sense of security and the fact that you know what your costs will be with Medigap can absolutely be worth paying a little extra each month.
So it seems like with Medicare Advantage, you're kind of taking a chance. You might save money up front, but then you could end up with higher costs later on. With Medigap, you're playing it safe by paying more up front for that guaranteed protection.
You got it. And another important difference is how the plans are set up. Medicare Advantage plans, well, they can be all over the place. Each insurance company can have your own way of doing things, which makes comparing them a bit of a headache. But with Medigap, the government has standardized the plans. There are 10 standardized plans, each with a letter from A through N, and each plan has a specific set of benefits that are the same no matter which insurance company you get it from.
Wait, so it's Medigap. It's like I'm looking at a menu, and each letter represents a different package of coverage options. And since it's standardized, I don't have to read through pages and pages of fine print to figure out what's covered and what's not.
Exactly. Having those standard plans is a huge plus for people. It makes comparing plans way easier, and you don't have to worry about hidden surprises or unexpected costs.
All right, my head's starting to spin a little with all these options. This is definitely a deep dive. So to recap, with Medicare Advantage, there's a chance to have lower premiums and extra benefits, but you might end up paying more later on, and you're limited to certain doctors and hospitals. Then we have Medigap, where you pay more upfront, but have the comfort of knowing your costs and the freedom to go to any doctor you want.
You nailed it. The big question now is figuring out which one fits your needs and priorities better, and that's what we'll be getting into next. So, are you ready to really dig into these Medicare Advantage plans? Remember, these plans come from private insurance companies, but they still got to follow Medicare's guidelines. It's kind of like the government makes the rules, but then each company gets to put their own spin on things.
Ooh, I like that. So it sounds like even though they're all called Medicare Advantage, there could be a lot of differences between them. That seems like it could make picking a plan kind of tough.
You're absolutely right. There's not just one Medicare Advantage out there. It's more like a buffet table with all sorts of plan types, each one with its own way of working its own costs and its own set of benefits. And just like at a buffet, you really got to know what you're looking for to make sure you pick the best stuff.
Okay, I'm ready to load up my plate. What are the main dishes I should be checking out on this Medicare Advantage buffet?
Well, let's start with the most popular one, HMOs or health maintenance organizations. Think of an HMO like your home base for all things healthcare. You usually pick a primary care doctor from the plan's network, and they become your main point of contact. They're the ones who manage your care and send you to specialists when you need them.
So if I like having one main doctor who knows my whole medical history, an HMO might be a good option. But what if I need to see a specialist? Like, say, I hurt my knee skiing and need to see an orthopedic surgeon.
That's where those referrals we talked about come in. With an HMO, you usually need a referral from your primary care doctor to see a specialist. It's like they're the gatekeeper to certain parts of the healthcare system.
Got it. It's all about staying within that network. What if I want to be able to choose my own doctors, even if it means paying a little extra?
Well, then a PPO, or preferred provider organization, might be more up your alley. PPOs give you more flexibility, so you can go see doctors and hospitals even if they're not in the plan's network, but it'll usually cost you more for those out-of-network services. It's like ordering something off menu, you can do it, but it'll cost you.
Makes sense. So with the PPO, I get to choose,
Yeah.
but it might come with a higher price tag.
Yeah.
What about people who really want to keep their costs down? Are there any Medicare Advantage plans that cater to them?
Absolutely. For folks who are all about keeping costs low, there's something called a PFFS plan, which stands for Private Fee for Service. With these plans, you can see any provider who's willing to accept the plan's payment terms, and you just pay a set amount for each service. It's like paying a la carte for your healthcare.
So I can basically see any doctor I want as long as they're okay with the plan's payment. Sounds pretty good. What's the catch?
Well, the main thing is not every doctor accepts PFFS plans. So before signing up, you'll want to double check if your favorite doctors are part of it. It's kind of like showing up to your go-to restaurant only to find out they don't take your preferred payment method. Not a good feeling.
Right, I get it. It's like you said earlier, do your homework. Got to make sure your doctors are in the network, even if it's not a traditional network like with an HMO or PPO. Now, earlier we talked a little bit about special needs plans or S&Ps. Those sounded interesting. Can you tell me more about them?
Definitely. SMPs are made for people who have specific health needs, like those with chronic illnesses or disabilities, or maybe they live in a certain type of facility, like a nursing home. Think of them as specialty shops within the whole Medicare Advantage market. They're designed to offer more specific benefits and care coordination that caters to those unique needs.
So if I have health conditions that need a more specialized approach, an S&P could be a good option. It's like having a personal shopper for healthcare. What other shops are there in this Medicare Advantage world?
There's a newer type of plan that's been gaining some traction called Medicare Medical Savings Accounts, or MSA plans. They're kind of like a high deductible health plan, but with a savings account attached. The plan puts money into the account, and you can use that money to pay for eligible medical expenses.
So if I'm generally healthy and don't expect to need a lot of care, I could save some money by using the MSA funds for my usual checkups and have a lower monthly premium, right? But what happens if I suddenly have big medical expenses and use up all that MSA money?
That's the risk you take with MSAs. You could save if you stay healthy, but you also take on more of the financial burden if something unexpected happens. It's a bit like a gamble high reward, but also higher risk.
Okay, so we've got HMOs, PPOs, PFFS, S&Ps, and MSAs. It's like an alphabet soup of Medicare Advantage plans. With so many options, how do you even begin to choose the right one? It's a little overwhelming.
It can be, for sure. But remember, you don't have to figure this out all on your own. There are people and resources out there that can help you sort through it all and find the best fit for you.
Speaking of help, what are the most important things someone should look for when they're comparing all these different Medicare Advantage plans? What questions should they be asking?
First things first, you got to think about your own healthcare needs and what's most important to you. What are your must-haves in a plan? Do you really value having that primary care doctor who coordinates everything? Is being able to choose any doctor a big deal for you? Are you okay with maybe having to pay more out of pocket in exchange for lower monthly premiums?
It's almost like dating. You got to know what your deal breakers are and where you're willing to compromise.
Exactly. Once you have a good idea of what you want, then you can start digging into the specifics of different plans. One of the first things to look at is the monthly premium. How much will it cost you each month to be in that plan?
Okay, premiums are important, but there's got to be more to it than that. What else should people be paying attention to?
Take a close look at the plan's formulary, which is basically a list of all the prescription drugs they cover. Make sure your meds are on that list and check how much you'll have to pay for them. Will there be a copayment, coinsurance, or a deductible?
That's a good point, especially for people who take expensive medications. It's not just about whether it's covered, but how much it'll cost you.
Right on. And don't forget to see if your doctors and hospitals are in the plan's network, especially if you're thinking about an HMO or a PPO. You don't want to get stuck with big out-of-network bills because you needed care from a doctor who's not in the plan.
It's like making sure your favorite restaurants are on your food delivery app. You don't want to be craving sushi and then find out it's not available.
Exactly. And then there are those extra perks we mentioned earlier, things like dental, vision, hearing, gym memberships, even help with transportation. Those can be great additions to your plan, but remember they can be very different from one plan to another.
So just like picking a hotel, it's worth comparing all those extra amenities to see which plan gives you the perks that match your lifestyle. But with all these options and details, are there any red flags people should watch out for when they're checking out Medicare Advantage plans?
Oh, yeah, definitely. One thing to be careful about is plans with really low premiums, like those $0 premiums. While those might sound great, remember, there's no such thing as a free lunch. Those low premiums often mean you'll be paying more for services later on.
It's kind of like those buy one, get one free deals.
Yeah.
You might end up spending more overall if you don't pay attention to the fine print.
Right. Another thing to consider is the plan's star rating Medicare rates each plan on a scale of 1 to 5 stars based on how good the quality of care is, the customer service, and how satisfied members are.
So aim for plans with 4 or 5 stars for the best experience. It's like checking online reviews before booking a hotel or picking a restaurant. Are there any other reviews I should be looking at when I'm comparing plans?
Absolutely. Take the time to carefully read through the plan's evidence of coverage document. This document is like the terms and conditions agreement for your health plan. It lays out all the details about what's covered, what the benefits are, what the limitations are, and what's not covered.
Got it. Got to put my detective hat on and really scrutinize those documents. No skimming allowed. Any other tips for making sense of all these Medicare Advantage choices?
One of the best things you can do is remember that you don't have to do this all by yourself. There are resources available to help you make an informed decision. Medicare's Plan Finder tool is a great place to start. It lets you compare different plans side by side. You can also talk with a licensed insurance agent who specializes in Medicare. They can give you personalized advice and answer any questions you have.
So it's like having a GPS for your Medicare journey. You could try to go it alone with a map, or you could have someone who knows the way give you turn-by-turn directions.
Precisely. And don't forget about your local state health insurance assistance program, SHIP. They offer free counseling to help you understand your Medicare options, and they don't try to sell you anything.
It's like having a trusted friend who's been through it all before and can give you the inside scoop. This has been so helpful. I feel much more prepared to look into my Medicare Advantage options now.
That's great to hear. But we're not done yet. Next, we'll be taking a closer look at those standardized Medigap plans, the ones with the predictable costs and the freedom to choose any doctor. Get ready to explore the world of guaranteed coverage.
Okay, so we've made it to the last part of our Medicare deep dive.
We're in the home stretch.
We talk about the basics of Medicare. We explored all those different Medicare Advantage plans.
So many options.
And now it's time to focus on Medigap, those extra plans that work alongside original Medicare.
You know, I always think of Medigap like a superhero.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it comes in to rescue you from those surprise medical bills and gives you the power to choose any doctor you want. No
Right.
network restriction. That's pretty amazing.
Right, like having a superpower. And we mentioned earlier how Medigap plans are standardized.
Yep.
It's like picking from a menu of coverage options. Can you remind us how that works again?
Of course. So the government set up 10 standardized Medigap plans. They're labeled A through N. Each plan comes with its own specific set of benefits, and those stay the same no matter which insurance company you get it from. It's like ordering a combo meal at your favorite fast food place. You know exactly what you're getting no matter which location you go to.
So I could walk into any insurance company and say, give me a plan G,
Yeah.
and know I'm getting the same coverage whether I buy it from company A or company B. That definitely simplifies things.
Exactly. That's one of the biggest perks of Medigap standardization. It takes away a lot of the confusion, and you don't have to worry about hidden gotchas that you sometimes see with those Medicare Advantage plans.
That peace of mind is definitely valuable. But you mentioned some plans offer more coverage than others, which of course affects the price. Can you walk us through some of the most popular Medigap plans?
Sure thing. Plan F used to be the superstar. It covered pretty much all of original Medicare's out-of-pocket costs. You were totally protected from unexpected bills.
Like having a top-notch bodyguard.
The best. But Plan F isn't available to everyone anymore, right? Something changed with the Medicare rules.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. If you became eligible for Medicare in 2020 or later, Plan F is off the table. It's like your favorite restaurant getting rid of your go-to dish. But don't worry, there are still some great choices out there.
Okay, good to know. So which plans are still available for everyone?
Well, Plans G and N have become the new favorites. Plan G is a lot like Plan F. It gives you a ton of coverage, but it doesn't cover the Part B deductible. So think of it like a slightly less fancy bodyguard, but still really good protection.
So I'd have to cover that Part B deductible myself each year, but then after that, Plan G would take care of most of the remaining costs.
That's right. And then there's Plan N. It offers a nice balance between coverage and affordability. It covers most of the gaps, but it does come with some copays for things like doctor's visits and trips to the ER. It's like your bodyguard occasionally asking for a little tip.
So Plan N is like the budget-conscious option. You still get good protection, but with a few small out-of-pocket costs here and there.
Exactly. It's all about finding that sweet spot between getting the coverage you need and staying within your budget.
I'm curious about how those Medigap premiums work. Are they based on my health, like with some other insurance plans?
Great question. And this is where Medigap really stands out. Unlike other health insurance, your Medigap premiums aren't based on how healthy you are. They're mostly determined by how old you are, the plan you choose, and where you live.
So even if I have a pre-existing health condition, I won't have to pay more. That's a huge relief. You mentioned different ways premiums are calculated, though. Can you explain those a bit more?
Sure. Most Medigap plans use something called community-rated pricing, which basically means everyone in the same area pays the same premium, no matter how old they are or how healthy they are. It's like everyone paying the same entry fee at a theme park.
I like that everyone's on a level playing field. Are there other ways they calculate premiums?
Yes, you have issue age-rated plans, which means your premium is based on your age when you first get the plan. The younger you are when you sign up, the lower your premium, and it should stay pretty stable over time.
So it's like locking in a good price on your favorite streaming service before they decide to raise their rates.
Exactly. That can be a smart move if you're thinking ahead. But keep in mind, they can be harder to find, and sometimes that initial premium might be a little higher than an attained age-rated plan. That's the third type. And with that one, your premium goes up as you get older.
So it's a bit of a trade-off.
Yeah.
With attained age-rated plans, I might save money at the beginning, but then end up paying more later on.
Yeah, it's like joining a gym with a low intro rate that goes up after a while.
So with Medigap, if I understand correctly, I can see any doctor I want, even if they're not in a specific network, right?
You got it. That's one of the best things about Medigap. You have that freedom. You can see any doctor or hospital in the U.S. that accepts Medicare. It's like having a passport for healthcare. You can get care wherever you go.
That's fantastic for people who travel or maybe have specialists they see in different states. No more stressing about finding in-network providers.
Exactly. And since Medigap plans pay their share after Medicare has paid its part, you usually end up with very little out-of-pocket costs. It's like having a financial safety net.
So Medigap offers predictability, flexibility, and peace of mind. Sounds pretty unbeatable. Are there any downsides?
Well, the biggest one is probably the cost. Those Medigap premiums tend to be higher than the Medicare Advantage premiums, especially for the plans with more coverage. And don't forget, you'll still need a separate Part D plan to cover your prescription drugs.
So it's not like a one-and-done solution. I still need to figure out that separate drug plan.
That's true. But overall, Medigap gives you a lot of financial security and freedom to choose your own healthcare providers.
All right, so we've looked at both sides now, Medicare Advantage with the possibility of lower costs up front and those extra benefits, but with a chance of higher costs down the road and limits on which doctors you can see. And then there's Medigap with its predictable costs, flexibility, and peace of mind, but with higher monthly premiums. How do people decide which approach is right for them?
That's the million-dollar question. It all comes down to your own needs and what's important to you. Think about what you need from your healthcare, your budget, how much risk you're comfortable with, and how important it is to be able to choose your own doctors.
It's kind of like deciding between an all-inclusive vacation package and planning your own trip.
Exactly. And just like when you're planning a trip, doing your research is key. Compare plans carefully, use online tools like Medicare's Plan Finder tool, talk to insurance agents who specialize in Medicare, and don't forget about those SIP counselors. They can all help you find the perfect plan.
This has been an amazing journey through the ins and outs of Medicare. I feel like a Medicare expert now. Any final words of wisdom for our listeners as they start their own Medicare adventure?
The biggest thing is to remember that this is your healthcare journey, and you should feel confident and informed about the choices you're making. Don't be afraid to ask questions, get help, and stand up for what you need. And most importantly, choose a plan that gives you peace of mind so you can focus on what truly matters, your health and well-being.
Well said. We hope this deep dive has equipped you with the knowledge and the confidence to navigate the world of Medicare. Until next time, stay curious, keep learning, and take care.